Here we go. We're recording. You can all record.
Okay, start recording.
Come. Hello, Kenya.
Okay, there we go. Start the recording.
Yeah. Hey, long time no see again. Oh gosh, our chat yesterday was really like, life affirming in so many ways. Passionate and just so comfortable that you both are here and we're just rocking it with this truth community. So much is going on. So much has gone on in the last few days, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. We're feeling all sorts, and we just had a great conversation with Nick and AD, and it just kind of like we felt that we needed to do a second part to it. So yeah, the energy is just so right.
Absolutely. I really wanted to mention something in the last conversation about the power of words, because I know is Nicholas studying law? Someone's studying law.
Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. So
it is Nick.
It's interesting how I really want to know what Trump is going to do to change maritime law, because if he changes the law, or changes the law in the country, then everyone's going to have to redo their degrees, aren't they?
Absolutely. This is something that I was thinking about especially with the traditional system here in the UK. What barristers going to have to do in the chambers, barristers, solicitors, more so barristers.
Yeah.
All the human rights barristers, all of that. What are they going to do? Because
people don't know a lot about maritime law, because I did a video on it and I was telling my followers that we have to understand how powerful words are and how they direct our perceptions of the self, and how we subconsciously what's the word I'm looking for, acquiesce to the connections that they put in our thoughts. And I did a video on it on my channel, but I was just telling people that if you put the letter S in front of a word, you get the word sword. And that's exactly how words are. They can be so sharp and cutting, and they cause so much pain and discomfort. But humans are creatures that are governed by words. So it's so important that we establish what words mean. And, especially in relation to the law and the government. And they don't really pick these words by mistake. Like I was explaining that the law of the sea, which is maritime law, they use language that defines, for example, okay, how do I explain it? Okay, in the video I explain why the law of the sea uses language that defines, for example, any law that deals with money, right? The world is 70% water, and similarly, the human body is 70% water. So human being is considered an international maritime law product.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So money and water are actually used in similar ways. Money is a liquid asset. You have a cash flow. You put your money into a bank, which is what else has a bank?
Riverbank.
Right? Yeah. And they direct the flow of the currency.
Currency, yeah. Charlie talks about this loads, and you're spot on, and it's so kudos to you, especially within your generation, to like understand this, because it's I'll be honest, it's not something that I'm so massively au fait with, but I've touched on all the subjects and it makes so much sense to myself. And the power of words is a very interesting topic that you raised, because I was just about to share something about the spelling. Yeah, the spellings, they hold so much energy, and inadvertently there is all sorts of rituals that are aligned to certain words that we use, the parenting of children, renting a child, all sorts, belie, there's a lie in the belief systems. You've got the word lie in there. There's the power of words in a whole host of categories within all the fraternities and industries and whatever, from the academic to the medical. The words are almost spellbinding us, so that, when I take myself back to university and I say, look, I've got my degree from Manchester, and it wasn't from the Red Brick University. And I remember I really struggled with memory. And, I say this to you, Aisha, all the time. And the reason being is there's almost like some spiritual kind of power trying to keep me away from being indoctrinated. And I look at it very positively like that. I passed all my exams and I got relatively good results, but that's through no study. I couldn't read. I couldn't focus on reading properly. So it was just retaining the information. And we had to cite all of our documentations and referencing, and that's what we're doing because we're taught to do that. When I used to think about everything that we used to do, it didn't kind of connect at the time. But internally, I would think, how do I know this is true? Like, this is somebody else's narrative or something, because he's got accreditation behind his name. I have to then believe that it's true because he's got the accreditation behind his name and he's just done extensive research or study that constitutes his knowledge superior, or the law of that particular subject. Yeah. But history, what is history? It's somebody else's narrative. Like, imagine about us now in this time. Let's put it in perspective, right? Everything that's going on at the moment, and we're going to explain it to our nieces, nephews, and all of this stuff down the line. But they're going to be in some inconsistencies. Like, I may not be au fait with a particular subject, or, you know, how history books are written is other people's narratives. It's Chinese whispers, so it gets distorted down the line. So this is what really fundamentally annoys me about how people look at their accreditations and their diplomas or their degrees. Great, it's amazing, but the MSM, they clutch onto the MSN so tightly, believing that that's true without that critical thinking, without that ability to approach it and have, you know, a universal view about, okay, well, there's
objective,
but it's just complete dismissive. And that just goes to show, when you have decalcified your pineal gland, what you were saying earlier on, by, you know, eating well, keeping away from things that you shouldn't be consuming, and that's not just food, not just what you watch, it's people as well. So, you know, we're in a situation how the three of us, we're sat here and it's just so obvious to us. But what I find now interesting is, why isn't it obvious to people? So I sit there and I think endlessly about what you're saying. It is all of these things. We're being spellbound. We've been broadcasted to. Yeah.
Don't you think it's very interesting that English, or, you know, these words that are spell binding us, they are universal languages. Right. Everywhere in the world, right? If you go, Indians, I mean, if you go to India, everyone knows English. Everyone is, well, you know, the ones who are educated, they're expected to learn English. They're educated in English. So whether they're studying medicine or whether they're studying engineering, they are studying it in English. If you go to all the European languages, of course, they're expected to take English as a second language.
It's true. I mean, it's amazing.
What do you think, Tiana? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Because going back to the first point you raised about maritime law, and how do you see this playing out over the next coming 2-3 years more acutely?
I think at the end of the day, what will happen is we'll bring back common law, right? And common law is for the people, and we'll just realize how people will finally wake up to the fact that good governance lies with us, the people, and not with the government. And that's what we really need to bring back. And, you know, the alternative to admiralty and maritime law is common law. And yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Trump is already doing that by the fact that the flag doesn't have a gold fringe on it anymore. That goes to show that, you know, historically that used to mean that we're at war, but he's taken that off now. And so, and I think AISHA mentioned yesterday how America is a corporation at the end of the day, isn't it? And once the two system is dismantled, we won't have a president anymore, because who has presidents? Corporations have presidents. So I'm actually really, really fascinated and excited to see what he'll do. But yeah.
And also London Corporation is no more, the city.
Right.
Judy Shelton took over the Federal Reserve, didn't she?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
I did.
Well, not taken over, but she's been appointed as
appointed
of the Federal Reserve. Big news. This is huge.
I mean, Tiana, what we were talking about in Nicholas's chat, and when you were explaining about, you know, chromosome 8, I find that so fascinating. And we need to be able to educate our children about this. These are the kind of topics, you know, my daughter, my eldest daughter, said to me yesterday, she goes, "Oh, Mum," and I don't expose her to a lot about this because at the end of the day, she's part of the system. It's all about being cool. It's not cool to support Trump, is it? It's not cool. So we kind of tend to stay away from the subject of Donald Trump. And yesterday she said to me, Mum, GCSEs have actually been cancelled again. Do you know about this? I said, well, you're telling me, so tell me more. And she was very quiet for a second, and she was quite thoughtful. And she said, Mum, do you actually think they're dismantling the education system?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because it's the second year now, we won't have GCSEs.
Yeah. I thought about that when we spoke about that yesterday on our show, and thought about what you said there, Aisha, because now that kids are not going to be going to school till the 15th of February, that was the first thing that I thought, there's something going on within the academic structure and the curriculum, or whatever it is now that they're going to start moving forward with. So none the wiser, but very good point that she's raised, because I was thinking exactly the same thing, that we are going to literally have a reset in every area of our lives, because everything has been
lied. It's a massive lie.
And there has to be, anyone that's watching this, any of our brothers and sisters watching this, thinking that things are going to go back to normal, that's a fantasy now. No. That's a far-fetched fantasy, because it's not. And the reality right now is that this is why we do these kind of conversations, not to kind of like condemn or criticize or be just know-it-alls. It's actually the reality is we're in a moment of time in history. I mean, think about this. In history, we're living into the most
pivotal moment in history.
Pivotal moment, in history. That's, I think I was looking for something else there, but exciting. I mean, we've gone through all of that, but we're living.
We are excited, but we are also empathic, and we are compassionate to those people, especially in our community, who have worked very, very hard academically to get to the level that they have. And, you know, there's a kind of panic. There'll be a sense of panic, like, that's all we know. We have worked hard towards this career. We've worked hard to become this barrister or this doctor or this engineer. And for them to come to a point where they go, okay, so everything we've known and been, you know, taught is a lie. I mean, we have to also understand that there will come a point where we'll be excited, but they might not be excited.
Right. No, because it's going to shatter the illusion that they have been living. Right. It's shattering that illusion. And I have a friend who's a barrister, and it's the cognitive dissonance is just huge. This person cannot even begin to digest just how much, you know, her profession is flawed with deception, and that everything that's going on, she's just not receptive to listening to anything that we speak about at all, because it's a complete shattering of the belief system. And their illusion, their belief system, and not even open to it, downright just dismissal, because it's that cognitive dissonance. It's just that I'm better off just being here, because, oh my God, if that could even be true, what do I do with my life? Because they align and ascribe themselves with their titles, this identity that they have to the academic system, or to their jobs, or to their, you know, whatever it is that they do. And this is where the car crash is going to happen, because we are not our titles.
I mean, my closest friend, she's a head teacher, and I love her. I love her so much, and she works so hard. Like, I sometimes feel so sad for her, because she doesn't have any time to herself. She's that dedicated, you know, dedicated to teaching, dedicated to looking after the teachers, because it becomes a lot about bureaucracy as you get higher up within any field. And I sometimes look at her, and I don't have the heart to actually say, well, you know, everything that you're literally sacrificing so much of yourself for this career that you love, this profession that you love. And I just don't want to be there. Sometimes I think I will be there, but, you know, when you're finally told that it's not really everything that you've been told it is.
Yeah, it's true. People
and doctors. We're going to have a lot of those.
I can't wait, honestly.
Don't get me started on doctors.
The fear, I mean, honestly, the fear-based mind control is the biggest achievement of civilization.
100%.
There's no tangible visibility of this virus's fatal contagion, but I mean, no one can quite put their finger on it. I can't. And I mean, this is an embarrassing pandemic. There's no piles of dead bodies on the street. We don't see anyone with the disease. There are no hospitals with lines of ambulances admitting new patients. The hospital in Winchester, we drive by it every day. Like it seems empty. I don't know. It feels like it's just empty inside.
They're all empty.
Yeah, no, but oh my God, the disease is so virulent that you have to go and have the test to see if you have it. And if you don't have the symptoms, they tell you that's a symptom that you don't have the symptom. And I mean, honestly, we shouldn't forget that the COVID is the preparation also for Agenda 2030 of the UN, isn't it?
Yep.
It was basically just a Trojan horse to bring in communism and to herd people like sheep off of the land, away from rural and country areas. I mean, honestly, guys, there's no one. The countryside is a ghost town. There's not many people here. And it's amazing that it just blows my mind, because they're destroying local communities and local traditions and piling humanity into these satellite cities like London and Manchester, and where they can't really, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is always keep us under surveillance, right? So that they can't really have us living all over the country. It's too disorganized. And
also it gives the illusion that everything is overpopulated, scarce. There's a scarcity, you know, that scarcity mindset.
They want to encourage city living.
And also it also breeds that feeling of a contempt, because we start to look at everybody and think, look, I'm working so hard and I've got to, you know, pay all these taxes, and look at you guys, you know, you're living in maybe a shoebox, but you're living off benefits and you're doing this. So there's all of it becomes like a boiling pot, you know, when there's everybody just shoved into these big cities, you know. So many emotions.
It's all sold as living the dream in the city of London or central London. You know, it's just how we all perceive these great cities to live in. You know, London's one of the best places to live in the world. I want to get far away from here at the moment right now. You know, I want to be somewhere hot and in a place, because right now, the UK, for me, I just am seeing it in such a different light. I appreciate everything, you know, no matter what, we always employ an attitude of gratitude. And I appreciate everything life has given me, the good, bad, the ugly, and we grow from all of this all the time. We're learning, we're constantly evolving spiritually, mentally, and physically, and so we should. But UK has really embedded this sort of psyche of misery and this low vibrational thinking. And I say this respectfully because it's the doom and gloom. It's so UK. You know, we're a nation used to complaining. Because it's the weather. The weather keeps us in that sort of dull state of mind, and with that we're feeling low and feeling down. And there's the programs that we're subjected to. I mean, you know, EastEnders and Coronation Street. You know,
Love Island.
I mean, the tap city, and then you've got the international ones, the Kardashians, and I have friends that watch it, and I just can't converse with this kind of folk, because I don't get it. Reality TV screwed us up big time.
It's true. I'll be honest with you. I think when my eldest said, "Oh, Ma," I said, "What are you doing upstairs?" And she goes, "Oh, I was just me and my friends, we were watching Love Island." I think I would have taken it better had she told me she'd failed a test that day.
But it's this obsession with other people's lives. Look at the Soch Vichar, you know, in this mindset that we're having to look at, watch Big Brother. Why do I want to watch someone brushing their teeth in the morning in a reality show? I don't know. I mean,
it's just
what about the Korean thing that people on YouTube my age, they love watching mukbangs? Have you heard of that?
What's that?
Have you heard of that? It's literally just people sitting. It's called mukbang, I think. They literally just sit there and eat, and people watch them eat.
Oh my God, I've heard of this
now. Guys, people make tons of money doing mukbangs now.
Oh, hang on. Is it like
this?
Actually, ask your kids about it. I'm sure they know.
Yeah, I've walked in on them watching somebody eating, and they said, and I literally stopped in my tracks and I went, "Kids, what is this nonsense?" And they went, "Mindless ASMR." She just eats lots of different types of jelly sweets and lollies, and that must be it, right?
Yeah, that's it. They just have these massive meals in front of a camera. And
what has the world come to? What has the world come to?
This is it.
What about movies, guys? Movies used to be so rich before. They used to have so much rich language, and you had proper movies that depicted families that were happy. We don't have that anymore. It's just, I can't watch one movie with my dad and my mom. It's just so embarrassing, the profanity and just the vulgar, barbaric.
Of course. I mean, I'm giving away my age now, but you know, I remember Mum used to have on Channel 4, or was it BBC One, Little House on the Prairie, and I used to just think, just like a family.
Yeah,
just
I love
family
the
around
Waltons.
What's the other one? Lassie. Was it
Lassie?
Lassie?
Yeah, and the little lost hobo. That's me.
Anyway, but yeah, Tiana, I'm totally with you there. You know, it's very hard to find something to watch with your parents or your kids nowadays, you know.
And it's complete identity politics as well. You know, people are like, oh, I had some Black friends who were talking. Actually, I had some friends who were talking to some of my Black friends about why they didn't go and see Black Panther. And my friends were like, we just don't like the people in it. And my other friends were shocked that they said they didn't go and watch Black Panther because it's some sort of prerequisite that you have to do because the people on the screen have the same skin color as you. And it's just, I don't know why people feel the need to see someone who looks exactly like them on screen to feel represented. I mean, in the olden days, we used to have stories and common things that you went through in your life. That's what so hard to explain. But basically, I just don't like the fact that they're bringing identity politics into cinema and just compromising storylines because of it.
It's been happening for quite some time. I mean, they've played with our emotional and psychological minds. You know, like it's been psychological warfare with how they. Like, let's take Bollywood for example. They use media. Yeah, they use media to manipulate you. The subliminal programming that happens, you know, we don't even realize it. Not just through the films, through the advertising of the films, through creating that sense of like excitement for the film, and then you know you get drawn into the story because they will have storylines that people will be able to identify. But then it's so fantastical that it's almost dream state. But there's always subliminal messages that are, you know, going on. Hollywood more so. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's this lack of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like, you know, with movies,
Bollywood storylines, they balance on two major things for me. Okay, two very clear things for me. The first is that nobody actually looks Asian, Indian. All right, everyone looks like white to me.
And lovely.
Yes,
and lovely. Lovely.
And the other thing is that the emotions that are amplified within Bollywood, for a Bollywood movie to actually be successful, is the usual rubbish. It's shame and guilt and judgment and all of the things that us Asians have to deal with.
Yeah, shame, guilt, log kya kehenge, you know.
Yeah.
What will people think? You know, it's just the whole thing.
Where was it? I don't know. Which decade was it where Asian women in Bollywood, Indian women stopped actually looking Indian? Because I remember, you know, growing up and we'd be at an auntie's house and they'd have some movie on from the, I don't know, 80s or whatever. And the women actually looked dark skinned and beautiful, really beautiful. And they wore saris. Nobody wears a sari anymore.
What are your thoughts, speaking of Bollywood and Asian women and all of that? It's just hit me there. Like, I have, you know, Sridevi. You both know Sridevi?
I think so.
Yeah, she was in Mr. India.
Mr. India, she's done Chandni, Jalba.
I've seen more of her art films. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, so she had a very similar death to Whitney Houston. In a bathtub.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the media worldwide is run by the cabal, right? So it doesn't sort of like, you know, exclude the Indian film fraternity. They're all run by the cabal. And I was thinking about that because I stopped watching a lot of Indian movies about 3-4 years ago, but granted, I love them. I love the Indian culture. I love all of that stuff. And I love the music, you know, I love Indian music. I love the bhajans, which is the sort of folk songs,
the folk
songs, or the kind of prayer songs, you know, like listen to my Hanuman Chalisa with all the flute background music and all of that. It's beautiful. There's so much culture and diversity that comes out within India. But when I started moving away from watching it like I did with the news, and it was just this thing that was happening very progressively but naturally, and I couldn't understand why. I could not focus on watching any movies. And I kind of am beginning to understand what's happening here, what's happening for me in my own personal journey. But it's just the vibrations and the energy that is coming out from all of this, that somewhere along within my higher self, I began to learn that this is here, something's not right. Yeah. So I started moving myself away and not being so immersed in watching anything on TV as well as Indian movies or in Hollywood. But I started drawing parallels to what was happening in Hollywood and with in certain people in India. So that's Sushant Singh Rajput, who was apparently committed suicide.
Weren't they?
The story is very close and parallel to Isaac Kappy, so it's the equivalent.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. And is it any coincidence that all of this stuff is happening now? Is it any coincidence that all these things about some of the Bollywood stars that are being revealed? Is it any coincidence that Sridevi died the way she did in the same way as Whitney Houston? So, I mean, I don't know about other film fraternities. I just am aware of Hollywood and Bollywood. Yeah, there's all around the world, you know, and then you've got Tollywood and Lollywood and all this kind of stuff. I kid you not.
Massive. It's one of the biggest exports, isn't it, of India?
Tollywood.
If not the
Tollywood.
No.
Bollywood. Yeah, no, but there's Tollywood. I think it's the Tamil one as well, the South Indian. So, I mean, I thought that was a joke, but it's true. There is Tollywood there as well. So
Bollywood, Nigeria. I mean, there's loads. You can carry on, Alpa. There's Bollywood.
So there is, okay. So, you know, and so if we look at all the parallels, and I'm sure the same thing's happening amongst all of the media fraternities. And I think that if people can't see that there is something going on and this sudden exposure over the last 3-4 years to so much corruption, conceited stuff, horrible things to do with kids and the nefarious things that go on within these industries, come on, you know, and then it's all interconnected with the underworld. You know, there's so much.
Even Bollywood have had so many high-profile deaths this year. And every time I hear somebody's died or someone's in hospital with COVID, literally I'll raise an eyebrow. I'll be like, very interesting. You know, we can connect the dots because we're able to see them. People won't see them. I don't think so. I mean, you know, the way Bollywood stars are, they have engineered this entire industry so that people worship them, takes them away. You know, this colorful thing is placed in front of these poor people who literally, some of them, they survive hand to mouth, if that at all. And, you know, it takes them into this world of escapism, away from the harsh realities of their own life, this unattainable dream, this dream that's there for, you know, that 3 hours. And again, you know, the way these Bollywood stars are worshipped, they are worshipped, you know, and they have a unity. And as time's gone on, and as probably they've understood how much they can actually make out of this industry by exporting it, they have morphed it. So it started to have this universal appeal. So again, you'll see that the stars, if you look at, what's the guy, all of them have like light eyes, not all of them, but some of the major ones, they've got these very modelly looks and they've got a universal appeal. Like you look at the reaction, if people want to grow a channel on YouTube nowadays, all they've got to do is start setting up a reaction to Bollywood movies. If you're from America, you're going to grow your followers overnight because it's such a powerful export with such a universal appeal. And that's it. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, I grew up with it because we had a lot of, you know, Gujarati friends, Indian friends, even though, and I think I remember Dad used to love it or something like that. So we grew up with it. But nowadays, you know, after there were maybe 15 years where I never watched any Indian films at all. But now, because, you know, my children are very interested in it, they go to see their grandparents, they see it sometimes at my mom's house. So it's been a case where I've had to go, okay, let's see if there are any that are interesting. And I'm very interested and I'm quite happy to see that there are some of those Mel Gibsons of the Bollywood industry who are trying to call things out, who are trying to And out of respect, you know, when I heard that Sushant died, I said to my kids, okay, fine, I don't mind. I'll sit down with you and I'll watch his latest film with you. And the message was lovely. And it wasn't a typical Bollywood movie. And everyone actually looked a bit Asian. And I was quite happy, you know, and you can see that there's also that lady, what's her name? Kangana?
She's phenomenal. She's very progressive.
She's like the Linwood of the Bollywood industry at the minute.
She's brilliant, and Gangana's got a lot. She again was an outcast in the Bollywood industry because she was different, and she wasn't a part of the clique and the people that are a part under the Karan Johar banner. Yeah, because there was a lot of what was the word that they nepotism. Yeah, the nepotism within the film industry, which is so apparent and evident. You know, it's the who's who, and that's how it works in India still today. The level of corruption in every single area, you know, of life is very evident for us to see. And in the film industry, it was the, you know, who's who, and Kangana completely stands out. She stands out and she stands up. So therefore, she was vilified in the press. Again, anyone that stands up to something that doesn't conform to a narrative that they are happy with, then, you know, she'll be vilified, be sort of like completely, the defamation will be on some next level. She'll be, all sorts of stories will be made up about her. I haven't really followed it much, but I love what she's standing up for, because she's literally doing, you know.
I think she came out with the death of Sushant. She came out to speak about it, and she's been speaking very, very, you know, again on YouTube. This is what we've been doing. We've been using these platforms that have been there to, sometimes I think they've been placed there to corrupt our kids, honestly, because being a mum of four, sometimes you'll go in and you can look through the history and you're like, oh, I wish my kids hadn't seen that, you know. But again, we use it to our advantage. We've been using these platforms to get the truth out, and that's what she's been doing. She's been using her YouTube channel. So that's been great.
It's brilliant. And that's well, really, it's, if there wasn't any censorship, because we have to still be a little bit careful with what we say, especially with this crap that's going on with regards to this scamdemic at the moment. So, you know, we're not like really fluid in our ability to talk freely, because, you know, how many platforms have been deplatformed.
Did you hear about Talk Radio?
No.
Talk Radio have been taken down off of YouTube, and Talk Radio are pretty mainstream, but simply because they are a little bit kind of shifted a little bit from away from the main narrative. They have anti-lockdown views, so they were taken down today.
Wow. Well, look, you know, I mean, surely if that doesn't tell people, there's so many Asians in mainstream media at the moment, right? And let's talk about that, because there's so many Asians in mainstream media, and I'm just saying this from observation. There is not one person that is talking about what's really going on, or even exploring the narrative. And I had somebody approach me in a very condescending, patronizing way, like they always do, because of the titles that they carry as crowns on their head. You know, I come from the BBC or the Sky News and the ITN. And I say this, and I say, I honestly don't care. But, you know, they come with this approach of, so Alpa, you're a Q supporter. And I'd like to do an interview with you. And I just said, what, for you to like completely, and, you know, vilify me and mock me, right? Because I know their train of thought. I know what they're thinking, the way they are, the way they approach it, the energy that they carry. And I'm quite bullish, yeah. And so I just went, what, do you want me to have an interview with you, for you to just then put it in all the Indian papers in a condescending, patronizing way? No, thank you. Yeah, if you want to talk, let's talk properly. Let's explore, let's have a fair discussion, but that's not happening from anyone in the mainstream media. It's so condescending that at this moment in time, where I'm quite a little bit triggered by it, because it's just unfair, and this is what's manipulating people's psyche, and this is why we're in the situation we are, because it's lack of credible journalism, a lack of complete credible journalism. But because they work for the echelons of these establishments, they think that they have got that kind of superiority. So unfortunately, it's all intertwined, ladies. Everything's so intertwined, every single industry, everything's so intertwined, and we've got this mess at the moment, and everyone's just so confused as to what really is the truth. But the thing is, try and do a bit of research, explore. We are privy to so much information, yeah. You know, you've just been you know, tunnel vision in one area, and it just completely, even when you just by accident go onto any like mainstream article or mainstream channel and what they show, it literally, I'm just like, Alpa, calm down, because this is going to be a process. You can't have our cardiac arrest about all of this, you know.
I mean, that's the thing. What's become highlighted for me is that this year has been such a battle. It's a battle for everything. I mean, we are even battling for chromosome 8. We actually are. It's where we're battling for our spirituality. We're battling for the children. We're battling for so many things.
Like, that's what we're battling for, right? It's just everything that makes us us.
Speak more about that, Tiana. I think that would be really helpful for people who don't understand what you're saying there, a bit more in depth, because, you know, it's such powerful information that you are relaying.
I think, so I was talking about how the COVID, right, and how everything is an attack on our spirituality and what makes us us. I mean, I was talking about the fluoride program and, you know, this fear-based mind control that they've put into us with the vaccine. I've got friends and family who are now urging me to take the vaccine, and they're all doctors. They're all doctors and pharmacists from Cambridge, Oxford. And it's really, like you said, it's just so hard to argue with them, because they bring out this repertoire and plethora of cases that you can't argue with them, because it's asymmetric information, isn't it? They have more knowledge in certain, like they have technical knowledge that you can't put forth when you argue with them. And anything you say, they just put it, because I was talking about how Charlie mentioned that there's so many people who died from the vaccine. We're not, just because we're not being told on the MSM doesn't mean it hasn't happened. And there's so many books that have been written about the injuries that people get from vaccines. But for some reason, it's still a conspiracy theory. I mean, Trump even talked about it in one of his debates, where he mentioned that his friend's son, I think, got autism right after he took the...
And he tweeted about it as well.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Yeah, the rise of autism in the last 20 years, in fact, the last 40 years. And what is that? What can we attribute that to? Autism, any kind of autoimmune conditions. It is just also systematic, but we're not looking at these things. We're not looking at these coincidences.
And gender dysphoria.
Exactly.
I think that's a massive reason.
Robert Kennedy talks a lot about the how the vaccines correlate with autism, and he's been a big advocate about shouting about this. And this is what I mean. We have some doctors that are pivotal in this movement, that are well established, that have been, you know, on the other side and now coming out. Still, we cannot accept their credibility. Then they just get, you know, wiped off as being conspiracy theories. People, come on.
What about Andrew Wakefield, and even Robert Kennedy had a conversation with him not so long ago, a couple of months ago. And, you know, and when I think back to what he did for that movement, you know, where he spoke about the link between the MMR and the autism, and the way he was vilified afterwards, I actually found that heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
You said, Tiana, that you can't argue with these people, but this is like a bioweapon that's been, you know, hit to humanity, what's happened, because people are lazy in not wanting to go and do that research, because we're so used to being indoctrinated and spoon-fed that we think that's the correct approach to everything without realizing to question every single thing. So we know that, we've established that, but that is what needs to be drummed into people. Question everything. Question every single thing. Even like doctors, they were absolutely useless in my recovery. You know, as you know what's wrong with me. I suffer from a condition that was so debilitating. Had it been picked up earlier on in my life, I could have been a lot better right now. You know, the cold is horrible for me, and I don't like owning the condition, because I don't like giving the energy to it from a spiritual plane. So, you know, I always try to keep myself in an exuberant state of mind, mentally, mind, and everything. So that does help. But this winter, I've been really suffering, and it's just my joints, my bones and stuff. And I can't help but think that, you know, I was like completely ingested with so many vaccines and so many antibiotics. For every ill, they give you a pill when you were young. So God knows what that's done to my immune system growing up. It was so depleted. And when I started working with naturopaths and the alternative fraternities for medicine, that's when it opened my eyes. I was so asleep. pineal gland completely calcified. I was using fluoride. And I remember a friend of mine saying, when I started exposing her to all of this, she's like, but Alpa, does it have fluoride in it, the toothpaste that you're using? You mustn't get your mind caught up in all this nonsense that you were talking about. Really? Like, you're saying that too? Because, and then I still used to stunt my ability to, you know, talk about these things. But now I thank those individuals, because we have to learn about medicine in its true sense, the true science, and even the Eastern, like Ayurveda, the principles of Ayurveda and the Chinese medicine. There's so much that we can learn, and we can get well from. And even within vitamins, they attacked us there using a lot of synthetic vitamins, heat-treated vitamins, all under the illusion that they're good for you. We're just not educated. They attacked us in veganism. Every single thing that now is in this new health industry, the beauty industry, everything, they attack us there. And then this whole subliminal, under this whole subliminal umbrella of it being good for you, and we're still none the wiser. So even when you're choosing the correct vitamins, we don't know that they're right. Our body has a natural healing mechanism. We can heal ourselves.
But you know, also what they've done is, when they realized, because I used to work for the Institute for Optimum Nutrition before I got married, and what I was finding out is that where you've got people getting clued up about vitamins, so they were starting to understand how important they are. And why do we need vitamins? We only need vitamins because the soil that our food is being grown from is depleted. Completely. The whole the agricultural industry has been destroyed. You know, farming has been taken over by the cabal. You know,
Monsanto.
Yeah. So again, you know, you've got this soil that is completely depleted of any minerals. So you've got food that is technically defunct of any nutrition. So people are developing this, these illnesses, these diseases caused by chronic deficiencies. Now, when people have been starting to become clued up from it, again, what's happened? They've started to go, okay, fine, yes, you're right. You know, everyone needs vitamin D, but they're not going to give you the good stuff. The stuff that they're going to give you is stuff that's been synthetically produced, and your body's not going to even absorb it. Yeah. You know, so the other side. So like you said, everything is attacked. Everything is taken over.
I think it's classic problem reaction solution, isn't it? They create these diseases, they give you the problem in the form of the disease or whatever it is, and then they make you react to it, and in your reaction you want security, and then they give you the solution for it, which is what? Vaccines. And you know, this is how they control us. It's behaviorism 101. You give people a paycheck to have certain opinions and do certain things. Absolutely. I mean, you can see it everywhere in almost all professions. It's not just the media. And if you think in a certain way, if you do certain things, you'll be awarded, and that's your paycheck. And if you don't, you lose your paycheck.
Merit systems.
Right, exactly. Those who don't participate in this enacting don't get fed. So really, it's just, if you propagate the message of the 1% and uphold the status quo, you can become rich and famous. And that's what short-sighted, ego-driven careerists do. And you know, they are the ultimate pawns of the empire.
I like that. Yeah.
Right? So they enrich themselves by riding the coattails of these, I don't know, conquerors. And the bottom line is the bottom line. You either bow down and play by their rules, or you lose access to basic necessities.
Subordination at its highest. It just makes me cringe. Subordination is my biggest gripe. You know,
it's the root of modern monetary and mental enslavement.
Absolutely.
Truly.
Absolutely. And under the guise that they're actually got some kind of autonomy in what they're doing, because they're just clutched so tightly to this titles that they have, and they think, you know, that they are powerful. And when really, you know, you're just overlords at these institutions. Overlords within these institutions. And it's just like this dependency, going back to the medical side of things, this dependency that our communities have on medicine.
Yes.
Yeah, the dependency on the Vaya, right? Without, you know, I mean, come on.
That's the pill popping culture that was.
Every ill, there's a pill, woohoo.
Pill, that's it.
Yeah, you know, and it infuriates me.
Think, you know, thank God I've never taken my kids to a doctor ever. None of them are injected with anything. We've had quite a few trips to the A&E for various reasons. My kids are very active, but for, you know, other than that, no, you know, thankfully.
modern medicine, great. You know, if you've had a car accident or something, you can't eat a cucumber and get better. You've had it, for real time. Medicine is brilliant, and then there's so much advancement within the medical industry, and there's just amazing things that we've progressed. But if you have real time accidents or something, like I said, you can't eat a cucumber or something just to get yourself better in that moment. You need the appropriate, medical treatment. But when it comes to like your immune system, like surely this whole year should have taught people to address their own health. But instead, what we're having with the second lockdown, I find that people are going even more bonkers. I get it. It's like, the next virus. And the thing is, even like if you see with the sanitizers, oh my God, what's that doing? It's depleting our immune system even more and more and more. Let's look at this with a bit of common sense. Look what happened at the start of the year, the Amazon fires. What's the trees representing? The oxygen of our planet. What was this whole virus representing? It's attacking our respiratory system. The trees. Have you seen those images that represent like our lungs and our respiratory system? Everything is just been so planned out so well. And we haven't seen it.
Alpa, we have lost the ability of conscious breathing. Most of my clients who come to me, the first thing I'll say is, you're not breathing. Forget about breathing right. You're actually not breathing. Your breath stops. Yeah. And because we've been conditioned to be in this state of fear, this state of stress, high anxiety, the first thing that's affected is your breathing. You're not oxygenating your body. You're not oxygenating your organs properly. It's so linked. That's it. You just need that understanding. Every level, every layer.
Honestly, I'm just so tired of the politicization of everything. It's everything. Everything that gives us any sort of enjoyment in this lifetime is being politicized. I get a lot of people on my page asking me for dating advice, which I find very difficult to give them because I can't relate to modern day women. Honestly, I can't. And it's so hard to, there's a quote that says, the only people who understand women are women, and that's why they don't get along. Right? So, I mean, it's so hard to understand women these days.
Can I ask you something based upon that? And I was discussing this, I can't remember if I was discussing it with you, Alpa, or with another friend of mine, but women are conditioned from very young age, and this is my opinion, to break each other down, to compete. We're not taught to celebrate one another. We're not taught to lift someone up when they're feeling low. We're not taught to actually go, you know what, that's your strength and it's beautiful. Now let's show that to the world. Instead, we're taught, you've got that, now I should have it better. Or, and I've noticed this, like even within, now that my kids go to school, one goes to a girls' school, and she says, Mom, it's the worst thing ever. To be at a girls' school, it's so tough. And she says it only because she says, my younger sibling's not going to cope. Because I know her personality, she's not going to cope. It is so cutthroat and dog eat dog. Like it's very pronounced.
I can't stand that. For me, Aisha, we did have this conversation, and since we've met, and yourself, Tiana, I say this because I gravitate to women like you because you're of a very good and pure energy. And what I mean by that, there's no kind of agendas there. We are there on I like to lift and empower. Exactly what you said. We like to lift and empower. You empower me. Aisha, you're always a pillar of support, the kind of friend can't even imagine like that's there in every sense. Yeah. And you, Tiana, is just so receptive and so wise for your age, and this is what we need. None of this kind of cutthroat nonsense that I have no time for. But it's unfortunately not people's faults, because you're right, Aisha, that's how they've been conditioned and taught from a young age, because through the popularization of the media and the kind of crap that's churned out of the television screens, and subserviently and subliminally, this is what's happening. With the advent of social media as well, it's encouraged stupidity as well. We use these platforms for great things, but we've learned the idolization of unnecessary people. Because, and I say this, like really, I don't want to see what you ate for breakfast or how you're eating every single day. Sorry, I don't care how you gyrate your ass and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested. I unfollowed every celebrity, not because where there is true artistry, true art and true talent, that just gets subdued. And these other,
But
souls that get sold to the devil become glorified as God, you know, with $120 million, and they're advocating for you to change yourself, for you to make changes within yourself, your body, your lips, your this, your that, your booty, every single thing, what social media have been doing. And that's where I find that women are becoming more and more depressed, because there's this pressure amongst them to look a certain way. Everyone's just looking a certain way now on Instagram.
Everyone's freak, like no one's real anymore. You can't even tell how many plastic surgeries people have done anymore.
Exactly. I mean, look, have a bit of change.
Not to feel worthy, not to feel that they're enough. It's always the pursuit of more and change and more, and not appreciating and accepting what you have.
And you're only obsessed with externality when you're not really going within, which is what they're stopping from doing.
Who celebrates intelligence anymme? I mean, come on, be real. You're talking about dating at your age, dating at any age. I think nowadays, you know, people
ask me. I'm not going to reveal my age, but yeah.
Tiana, when you start talking, and you know, you are very intelligent, and you, Alpa, you bring that passion. But Tiana, you know, your measured approach, and when you're expressing things and you're so intelligent, I find nothing more attractive in, you know, in people than intelligence. Honestly, I love it.
Yeah.
But it's emotional intelligence as well. It's not just, it's not the academic intelligence, of course, is necessary. Yeah, neither do I. I don't see myself.
Neither you, but I deem you to be one of the brightest and most intelligent people I know. I know you've gone through the academic system, but thankfully you don't seem to be boxed in, Tiana.
Right. I think it's also because I do study philosophy.
It's brilliant.
Philosophy used to be a prerequisite that everyone had to study.
Yeah, I would have loved to have done that. And you can really see with how you approach things.
These things, and it teaches you, because right now what we have is knowledge and information and wisdom. And I've talked a lot about this with Charlie. I mean, we all admire geniuses. In fact, human intelligence is a gift from God, but there's something even better than intelligence, and all religions place a higher value on wisdom than intelligence. Wisdom has moral benefits, and knowledge has to do with facts, and knowledge deals with questions like, what does this data declare, right? But let's say you're walking in the countryside and you see an unusual stick, and it's about, say, 3 feet long or an inch in diameter. If you pick it up and it feels heavy, it suggests that it's been recently cut from a tree. But this is an exercise in knowledge and gathering of facts and data. So knowledge can be described as, you know, a clear and certain perception of that which already exists. But a person may possess a tremendous amount of data, which is what we're seeing right now. So many people have so much knowledge, and they may be able to astound friends with these facts, or have the mental capacity to memorize long passages of literature.
Absolutely.
Yet, you know, all this knowledge is of very little benefit.
It's
because
dense.
Knowledge
it's dense.
Yeah, it's dense, and it's of very limited value right now, because the whole education right now is geared towards providing information, isn't it? And geared towards.
But some people say, you know, sorry to cut you, but some people say your ability to be a good student is based upon how well you're able to memorize information.
Yeah.
You see, what's really important, especially in your generation, is that for me, it's very simple. And I try not to kind of convolute my own mind with so much unnecessary information and overwhelm myself. I can't even watch so many truthers. I was saying this to AISHA yesterday, you know, because everything that comes from me comes from within. I don't really read much, and I sort of, with my meditation, I download information. But one of the most important things that we need to take away in our lives is what impact did you make on lives around you? Yeah, how did you leave someone feeling after they left you or spoke to you? You can talk about anything from your trials and tribulations with people. However, you can be upbeat and well-spirited about this. Yeah, of course, we must express, we must own our feelings, we must own our expressions and our own individuality. However, you know, we look at everything in a balanced approach. We spoke about this yesterday. We must balance within the dark and the light, the duality within us, yeah, and learn to kind of neutralize those charges that it has within us. But how are we affecting people around us? Yeah, and it's not through a false sense of placating. It's not through a false sense of flattery, because that's the worst thing as well that we can do to people. It's that authentic, genuine approach that we have through a sense of humbleness and care that, you know, we said this, my soul recognizes your soul. And that is lost in these last 10 years through the advent of social media, because we have become so fixated, and I don't say we here, but just society, and we're moving away from that. People are beginning to realize, but what worries me sometimes is the younger generation have become quite robotic. And when I had this beautiful girl, Shelley, 17-year-old, that approached me and on Facebook, and she just wanted to speak to me about what's going on, and I call it youth and their truths. I was so impressed with her wisdom and her soul and her ability to show that love and that sort of that enthusiasm, that, you know, she was just so flowing, and it was beautiful to see. And I don't see that much, not that I'm around a lot of 17-year-olds, to be fair, but when I kind of see children even from the age of 6 till 10, is fixation with electronic gadgets. And that's what upsets me, I think. It's because as parents, we have a responsibility to understand that, like, I'm not a parent, so look at me giving my 2 pence worth, but I'm just observing here that if we want change in the future, we have to start living by that example and showing up for our children, showing up for the people around us. And if that means that we're having to stand up in the short term against the people that we love. So you were saying, Tiana, about the people within the family or people that you know that hold these titles, that it's so difficult to argue with them. I know all of them. I know them all by their first names, but I don't care, because I'm so convinced that what I'm fighting about, because it's not for something, so it's not something small or minute. This is a change that's happening on a global scale. It's important. It's necessary. We need to be talking about it. You need to be doing this, Tiana. That's why I'm so hell-bent on encouraging you. So as you, Aisha, in your community, it's not about communities now. We're in this unity consciousness. We're all one. Absolutely. We're all the same, you know? Absolutely. Sorry, there's just going to a rant I do.
No, we need it. We need more of these rants.
We need it. But I was wondering if I could actually be excused from it, only because I had to go in and...
No, we've done an hour anyway. So this is part 2 of our, and then I think we should do this regularly. I think slowly, ladies, this is going to be really pleasing.
Actually make the round table thing a regular.
Yeah, we should. I'm going to have someone, I'm going to have 2 more people next week as well within our Asian community, because I am starting to get a lot more followers. I want people to come and know about you as well, Aisha. So definitely I will be promoting that. You know, it's important. Whatever, you know, even if whatever backlash we get or whatever, we've had it for 9 months, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, how much worse can it get, right?
You know, so yeah, love you both. Till the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alpa.
Bye. Bye.